Maya had been living in her cramped studio apartment for 3 months when she realized she was going broke. Every month, the rent took half her paycheck, and groceries ate up most of what was left. She worked at a small advertising company downtown, making barely enough to survive in the expensive city. Something had to change, and fast. That's when she decided to look for a roommate. She posted on every app she could find, describing her small but cozy place and hoping someone decent would respond. The responses were mostly disappointing. There was the guy who wanted to turn the living room into his personal gym, the woman who insisted on bringing her 5 cats, the college student who seemed to think rent was optional. Then Alex messaged her. The conversation was refreshingly normal. Alex was polite, asked reasonable questions about the apartment, and seemed genuinely interested in keeping the place clean and quiet. They worked from home doing some kind of computer consulting and could pay their share of rent on time every month. When Maya asked for references, Alex provided them immediately. Everything checked out perfectly. They met at a coffee shop near Maya's apartment. Alex was probably in their late 20s, with pale skin and dark hair that looked like it. Had never seen a bad hair day. They dressed simply but neatly, spoke softly, and had this calm energy that Maya found refreshing after dealing with so many chaotic potential roommates. There was something almost otherworldly about how put together Alex seemed, like they had life figured out in a way most people didn't. During their conversation, Maya noticed a few quirky things. Alex never quite made direct eye contact, always looking just slightly to the side when they talked. They ordered their coffee black with an extra shot of something that smelled metallic, and they held the cup in a way that seemed careful, like they were worried about breaking it. But these seemed like minor personality traits, rather than red flags. Alex moved in the following weekend with surprisingly few belongings. Just a suitcase, a laptop bag, and a small box that they carried very carefully. Maya offered to help, but Alex politely declined, saying they preferred to handle their things personally. Within an hour, Alex had settled into the small bedroom, like they had been living there for years. The first few weeks were blissful. Alex was the ideal roommate Maya had dreamed of but never expected to find. They were quiet, clean, and respectful of boundaries. They split the utility bills fairly, never left dishes in the sink, and somehow fixed Maya's constantly breaking internet connection without even being asked. But as time went on, Maya started noticing some unusual patterns. Alex's eating habits were strange. While Maya filled the refrigerator with normal groceries, Alex seemed to live entirely on protein shakes that looked thick and gray like liquid cement. The smell was sharp and metallic, almost like the air before a thunderstorm. Maya never saw Alex eat regular food, not even snacks. When she offered to cook dinner for both of them, Alex always politely declined, saying they had dietary restrictions. Then there was the sleep schedule. Maya would come home from work to find Alex wide awake, working on their laptop with an intensity that seemed almost supernatural. They would stay up for what seemed like days at a time, never appearing tired or sluggish. Then, without warning, Alex would disappear into their room for 12 or even 15 hours straight. During these long sleep periods, the apartment would become eerily quiet. It's like even the normal city sounds couldn't penetrate whatever deep rest Alex was in. Maya also noticed that Alex never seemed to get sick, never complained about the weather, and never appeared to age or change. Their skin always looked exactly the same. Their hair never grew, and they never seemed to have bad days or good days. They were consistently the same person, day after day, in a way that was both comforting and slightly unsettling. The technical skills were impressive, too. Alex could fix anything electronic just by looking at it. When Maya's laptop crashed, Alex had it running perfectly in minutes. When the building's Wi-Fi went down, Alex somehow restored it faster than the internet company could even respond to. Maya's complaint call? They never explained how they did these things. Just smiled mysteriously and said they had experience with technology. Alex's work was another mystery. They claimed to do consulting, but Maya never heard phone calls, never saw client meetings, and never witnessed any of the typical stress that comes with freelance work. Alex would sit at their laptop for hours, typing steadily, but the screen was always angled away so Maya couldn't see what they were working on. When she asked about it, Alex would give vague answers about data analysis and research projects. Despite all these quirks, Maya genuinely enjoyed having Alex around. They were thoughtful in small ways that made daily life better. Alex would make sure the coffee was ready when Maya woke up, would quietly handle small repairs around the apartment, and would leave little notes when they went out, letting Maya know when they expected to return. It felt like living with the most considerate person in the world. The strangest thing was how Alex interacted with other people. When Maya's friends came over, Alex would be polite, but would seem to study them intensely, like they were taking mental notes on every conversation and interaction. Alex never joined in naturally, but would ask odd questions about human behavior and social customs, as if they were genuinely curious about how normal people live their lives. Maya began to wonder if Alex was from another country and was still adjusting to local culture. That would explain the formal way they spoke, the careful attention to social rules, and the intense interest in observing human behavior. She never asked directly, not wanting to make Alex uncomfortable, but she assumed they were probably from somewhere in Europe, where people were more reserved and formal. For 6 months, this unusual but comfortable arrangement continued. Maya saved money, enjoyed the company, and appreciated having someone reliable to share her space with. Alex remained the perfect roommate, mysterious but harmless, helpful but never intrusive. Maya had no idea that her life was about to change forever, all because she decided to take a simple afternoon nap on the couch. Tuesday started like any other day, except Maya woke up with a pounding headache that felt like someone was hammering inside her skull. She had stayed up too late the night before working on a presentation for her biggest client, and now she was paying the price. 3 cups of coffee hadn't helped, and by noon, she knew she was fighting a losing battle. The presentation itself had been a disaster. Maya had stumbled through her pitch while her client sat there looking bored and checking their phone. Every slide felt wrong, every word came out jumbled, and by the end, she could tell they weren't impressed. Her boss pulled her aside afterward and suggested she take the rest of the day off to recharge. Maya didn't argue. The headache was getting worse. She could feel that familiar exhaustion creeping in that meant her body was demanding rest whether she wanted it or not. She gathered her things from her desk, mumbled goodbye to her coworkers, and headed home. The subway ride felt endless. Every stop, every announcement, every conversation around her made her head throb worse. She closed her eyes and tried to focus on breathing, counting the minutes until she could get home to her quiet apartment. All she wanted was to collapse somewhere comfortable, let her brain shut down for a while. When Maya finally reached her building, she climbed the 3 flights of stairs slowly, each step making her headache pulse. She fumbled with her keys at the door, dropped them once, and finally managed to get inside. The apartment was cool and dim, exactly what she needed. Alex was nowhere to be seen. Their bedroom door was closed, and Maya could hear the faint sound of typing coming from inside. Good. That meant she could have the living room to herself without having to make small talk or explain why she looked like she'd been hit by a truck. Maya kicked off her uncomfortable work shoes and let them fall wherever they landed. Her blazer came next, tossed over the back of a chair, followed by her jewelry and the hair tie that had been giving her a headache all day. She changed into soft clothes and padded to the living room in her socks. The couch had never looked more inviting. Maya had bought it secondhand when she first moved in, and despite its worn edges and faded cushions, it was the most comfortable piece of furniture she'd ever owned. She grabbed the throw blanket from the back and arranged the pillows just right. The apartment was unusually quiet. Even the typical city sounds seemed muffled, like the world outside had decided to give her a break. No honking cars, no construction noise, no neighbors arguing in the hallway. Just peaceful silence that felt like a gift. Maya settled into her favorite corner of the couch, the spot where the cushions had molded perfectly to her body over months of use. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and let her eyes drift closed. The headache was still there, but already she could feel her muscles starting to relax. Her phone buzzed with a text message, but she ignored it. Whatever it was could wait. Right now, nothing existed except the soft couch, the warm blanket, and the promise of sleep that would make everything better. Maya drifted off within minutes, her breathing slowing as the stress of the day finally melted away. The apartment remained perfectly quiet around her, creating a bubble of peace that felt almost magical. She wasn't sure how long she had been sleeping when something began to pull her back toward consciousness. At first, it was just a vague awareness that something had changed. The quality of the silence was different somehow, though she couldn't quite identify why. Then she became aware of warmth. Not the gentle warmth of her blanket, but a different kind of heat that seemed to be pressing against her back. In her drowsy state, Maya's brain tried to make sense of it. Maybe she had rolled against the heating vent. Perhaps she had bunched up the blanket in a weird way. But as consciousness slowly returned, she realized the warmth was too specific, too focused. It felt like body heat, like someone was lying behind her on the couch. The sensation was so clear that she could almost feel breathing against the back of her neck. That was impossible, though. Alex was in their room working, and Maya lived alone otherwise. She must be imagining things, caught in that strange space between sleeping and waking, where dreams felt real and reality felt dreamlike. Except the warmth was getting stronger, and now she could feel actual weight pressing against her back. Not heavy, but definitely present. Like someone had quietly laid down behind her, sharing the couch. Maya's heart started beating faster as her brain struggled to process what was happening. She kept her eyes closed, partly because she was still mostly asleep and partly because some instinct told her not to move yet. Something was definitely there. Something warm and solid pressed against her back from shoulder to hip. Then she noticed the vibration. It was subtle at first, like a phone buzzing on silent mode, but it was coming from whatever was behind her. The vibration was steady and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, but different. It pulsed through her body in a way that felt both soothing and completely wrong. Along with the vibration came a smell she couldn't identify. It was sharp and metallic, like the air right before a lightning storm, but mixed with something else that reminded her of Alex's weird protein shakes. The scent was getting stronger, filling her nostrils and making her feel slightly dizzy. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. Had Alex finished working and decided to take a nap too? But Alex never napped, and they certainly had never shared the couch before. Maybe someone had broken into the apartment. But who would break in just to lie down behind someone? The more awake she became, the more wrong everything felt. The body behind her was too warm, radiating heat like a fever. The vibration was too regular, too mechanical to be natural. And the smell was getting stronger, making the air feel thick and strange. Fear began to creep in as Maya realized she was trapped. She couldn't move without alerting whoever was behind her. But staying still meant accepting that something impossible was happening. Her rational mind kept insisting this was just a weird dream. But every sense told her it was terrifyingly real. She lay there frozen, her heart pounding so hard she was sure whoever was behind her must be able to feel it. The warmth, the vibration, the strange smell, all of it was getting more intense by the minute. Maya knew she had to look, had to see what was sharing the couch with her. But some deep instinct warned her that once she turned around, nothing would ever be the same again. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Every muscle in her body was tense, ready to run, but she couldn't move. The warmth behind her was getting stronger, and the strange vibration was making her feel dizzy, while she had to know what was happening, even though every instinct screamed at her to keep her eyes closed and pretend this wasn't real. Taking the slowest, most careful breath of her life, Maya began to turn her head. Just a tiny movement at first, barely rotating at all. The thing behind her didn't react, so she continued millimeter by millimeter, till she could see over her shoulder. What she saw made her mind go completely blank. It was Alex, but it wasn't. Alex. The person lying behind her had Alex's general shape and size. But everything else was wrong in ways that made Maya's brain struggle to process what she was seeing. Alex's usually pale skin was glowing with a soft blue-white light that pulsed gently like a slow heartbeat. The glow wasn't coming from any external source. It was coming from within their skin, as if they had swallowed a star. Maya blinked, hard convinced she was hallucinating from stress and exhaustion. But when she opened her eyes again, the impossible sight remained. Alex's face looked different too, more angular than usual, with features that seemed sharper and more defined. Their closed eyes appeared larger, set wider apart than she remembered, giving their sleeping face an otherworldly quality that made Maya's skin crawl. But the most disturbing thing was what was happening with Alex's hands. Thin, almost transparent threads were extending from their fingertips, moving in the air like they were alive. The threads weren't touching Maya's skin, but they hovered just above her arm, where Alex's hand rested, moving in slow, hypnotic patterns. That made her feel sick to watch. The metallic smell was much stronger now, almost overwhelming. It reminded Maya of the time she had licked a battery as a kid, mixed with the ozone scent that came before thunderstorms. The air itself felt different, thick and electric, like it was charged with invisible energy. Maya's rational mind was screaming explanations at her. This had to be a dream. She was having a breakdown from work stress. Someone had drugged her coffee. Alex was playing an elaborate prank with special effects and makeup. But deep down, she knew none of those explanations fit what she was experiencing. This was real, impossible as it seemed. The vibration she had felt was definitely coming from Alex's body. Now that she could see them, Maya realized it was like Alex was humming, but the sound was coming from inside their chest rather than their throat. It created a low, almost musical tone that seemed to resonate in Maya's bones, making her feel both calm and terrified at the same time. As Maya watched in frozen horror, the glowing threads extending from Alex's fingers began to move faster, creating intricate patterns in the air. It looked like they were writing something or maybe scanning something, though Maya couldn't tell what. The movements were too purposeful to be random, but too alien for her to understand. She wanted to scream, to jump up and run, to do anything except lie there watching this impossible scene unfold. But her body wouldn't obey her. Part of it was pure terror, but part of it was something else, a strange compulsion not to disturb whatever was happening. Like some primitive part of her brain understood that moving right now would be catastrophic. Maya tried to convince herself she was still asleep. This had to be the most vivid nightmare of her life. But she could feel the rough fabric of the couch under her cheek, could smell her own shampoo, mixed with the metallic scent filling the air, could feel her heart hammering against her ribs. Every detail was too real, too specific to be a dream. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Maya lay perfectly still, watching Alex's impossible transformation and trying to process what it meant. The glowing threads continued their mysterious dance, and the soft humming vibration never stopped. Occasionally, Alex's features would shift slightly, becoming even more alien before settling back into something closer to the roommate Maya thought she knew. Questions raced through Maya's mind faster than she could process them. What was Alex? Where did they come from? How long had they been living like this? Were they dangerous? Did they know Maya was awake and watching? And most terrifying of all, what would happen when Alex woke up and realized their secret was discovered? The apartment around them remained eerily quiet, as if the outside world had stopped existing. No traffic sounds, no footsteps in the hallway, no voices from neighboring apartments. It was like Maya and this glowing, impossible version of Alex were the only two beings left in the universe. Maya's neck was starting to cramp from holding her head in the same position. She didn't dare move. The glowing threads were still, dancing around her arm, never quite touching, but close enough that she could feel a strange tingling sensation on her skin. It wasn't painful, but it wasn't natural either. She found herself studying Alex's transformed face, trying to understand how someone she had lived with for 6 months could be hiding something this enormous. Every morning conversation, every shared meal, every casual interaction suddenly took on new meaning. Had Alex been pretending to be human this entire time? How was that even possible? The blue-white glow was beautiful in a terrifying way, like looking at something that belonged among the stars rather than on a couch in a cheap apartment. Maya realized that Alex's strange habits suddenly made perfect sense. The weird food, The impossible sleep schedule, the uncanny ability to fix electronics, the way they watched human interactions, like they were studying a foreign species, because that's exactly what they were doing. As this realization hit her, Alex's eyes suddenly opened, and Maya found herself staring into depths that looked like the night sky, complete with tiny points of light that sparkled like distant stars. Those definitely weren't the brown eyes she remembered. The musical humming stopped abruptly, and Alex's alien gaze focused directly on Maya's face. For a moment that stretched like eternity, neither of them moved. Then Alex's features began to shift back toward human normal, though the process was slow and clearly took effort. When Alex finally spoke, their voice carried harmonics that human voices couldn't make, creating an almost singing quality that resonated in Maya's chest. "Please don't be afraid," Alex said, and Maya realized her entire world had just changed forever. Maya stared into those impossible star-filled eyes, her mind completely frozen. Alex's voice had sounded like music mixed with something electronic, creating sounds that no human throat could make. The words "don't be afraid" hung in the air between them, but Maya was way beyond fear now. She had crossed into a territory where normal emotions didn't apply anymore. For what felt like forever, neither of them moved. Maya couldn't even breathe properly. Alex's face was slowly changing back to the familiar features she knew, but the process was like watching someone take off an incredibly detailed mask in slow motion. The star-like points in their eyes were fading, the angular features were softening, and the blue-white glow was dimming until their skin looked almost normal again. But Maya had seen the truth now, and there was no going back. "I know this is shocking," Alex said, their voice gradually becoming more human-sounding with each word. The musical quality was fading, but Maya could still hear something different underneath, like an accent from a place that didn't exist on any map. "I never intended for you to see me like this." Maya finally found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "What are you?" Alex sat up slowly, giving Maya space to move away if she wanted to. The glowing threads that had been dancing around Maya's arm retracted back into Alex's fingertips like they had never existed. Maya immediately scooted to the other end of the couch, pulling the blanket around herself like it could somehow protect her from this impossible situation. "I suppose the simplest answer is that I'm not from here," Alex said, looking down at their hands as if checking to make sure they looked human again. "My people have been studying your world for many years. I was sent here to learn about how humans live, how they form relationships, how they share spaces with each other." Maya's brain was struggling to process this information. "You're an alien," she said, surprised by how matter-of-fact she sounded. Alex nodded carefully. "That's your word for it, yes. We call ourselves something that doesn't translate well into human language, but alien works. And you've been living here, pretending to be human this whole time?" Maya's voice was getting stronger as the initial shock wore off, replaced by a mixture of anger and confusion. "The pretending part is harder than you might think," Alex admitted. "What you saw just now was my natural state during what we call a regeneration cycle. Every few weeks, I need to return to my true form to recharge and process the stress of maintaining human appearance." Maya thought about all the times Alex had disappeared into their room for long periods. Those weren't naps, were they? They were necessary maintenance periods. "I usually ensure complete privacy and security during these times, but today something went wrong." Alex looked genuinely embarrassed, which was weird considering they had just revealed themselves to be an extraterrestrial being. "What went wrong?" Maya asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. Alex was quiet for a long moment, seeming to struggle with how to explain. "Living among humans has been more complicated than our research predicted. The constant effort to appear human, to respond appropriately to social situations, to hide my true nature. It's exhausting in ways we didn't anticipate." "So you had some kind of breakdown?" "In a sense, yes. But it wasn't just the physical strain." Alex looked up at Maya, and even though their eyes looked completely human now, she could see something deeper in them. "You've been an unexpectedly considerate roommate, Maya. The way you respect boundaries. The way you leave little notes when you go out. Even the way you sing badly in the shower. It all created complications we hadn't prepared for." Maya felt a strange mix of emotions, complications. I began to experience what I believe you would call attachment, emotional connection. My mission was to observe human cohabitation patterns, but I found myself actually enjoying living with you. When I realized I would eventually have to leave and return to my people, it triggered a stress response that caused today's unexpected regeneration cycle. This was too much information to process all at once. Maya pulled the blanket tighter around herself and tried to think. So everything about you is fake? Your name, your job, your personality? Alex is a name I chose because it works in human society, but the personality, you know, is real. The consulting work is actually filing reports about human behavior patterns. But my responses to you, my appreciation for your kindness, my growing fondness for this life, all of that is genuine. Maya looked around the apartment that suddenly felt like a completely different place. How many of you are there? Are there others living among humans? More than you might expect, but fewer than you might fear. We're not here to invade or conquer. We're researchers, anthropologists in your terms. We study civilizations to understand how different species develop socially and technologically. And your technology? Maya thought about all the times Alex had fixed electronics with impossible ease. Centuries ahead of human development, but we're strictly forbidden from sharing it or influencing human progress. We're supposed to observe. Without interfering, Alex paused. Though I may have broken that rule a few times when your internet went down. Despite everything, Maya almost smiled at that. So what happens now? Do you probe me or erase my memory or something? Alex looked shocked. We're not the monsters from your movies, Maya. We don't hurt people. You're right that this creates a serious problem? They stood up and began pacing, a very human gesture that somehow made this whole situation feel slightly less insane. I've violated the most fundamental rule of my mission by revealing myself to you. If my people discover this breach, the consequences would be severe for both of us. What kind of consequences? For me, exile at best. For you, they might decide you're a security risk that needs to be dealt with. Alex stopped pacing and looked directly at Maya. I have two options. I can modify your memories of this conversation and continue my mission as planned. You would remember nothing of what you've learned today. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The idea of having her memories altered was terrifying, and the other option? They disappear. I abandon my mission and find a way to live permanently among humans without support from my people. I become what your movies would call a rogue agent. Maya was quiet for a long time, processing everything Alex had told her. 6 months of living together, all the small kindnesses, all the comfortable routines they had developed, had any of it been real? But looking at Alex now, seeing the genuine worry and confusion on their face, Maya realized that whatever else was fake, the friendship between them felt real. Can I ask you something? Maya said finally. Of course. That night last month when I came home crying after my dad went to the hospital and you made me tea and sat with me even though you never really talked much before that, was that part of your research? Alex looked down at their hands again. No, that was me genuinely caring about your well-being and not knowing how to handle those feelings according to my training. Maya nodded slowly. And when you fixed my laptop when I thought I'd lost my entire portfolio for work? Also not part of the mission? I just couldn't stand to see you so upset, Maya said, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. Then I have a decision to make too. Alex looked up at her with those eyes that she now knew had once been filled with stars. What do you mean? Well, Maya said, if you're going to become a rogue alien agent, you're probably going to need help learning how to be more human. And frankly, after 6 months of living with the perfect roommate, I'm not sure I want to go back to dealing with normal people and their normal problems. Alex stared at her in amazement. You would do that? Help me stay hidden from my own people? Maya smiled for the first time since waking up from her nap. Alex, you're the best roommate I've ever had. You pay rent on time, you're clean, you fix my electronics, and apparently you're literally out of this world. Why would I want to give that up? For the first time since Maya had known them, Alex laughed. It was a sound that was both completely human and beautifully alien at the same time, and somehow it made everything feel like it was going to be okay. The rest of that day passed like something out of a dream. After Alex's laughter filled the apartment, breaking the tension that had been suffocating them both, Maya realized she had crossed a line from which there was no return. She was now part of something bigger than her small life in her small apartment, and surprisingly, that didn't terrify her as much as it probably should have. They moved to the kitchen table where Alex made tea for both of them. Maya watched, fascinated, as Alex performed this simple human ritual with the same careful precision they brought to everything else. But now she understood why every movement seemed so deliberate. Alex was consciously thinking about each action, making sure it looked natural and human. "Can you actually taste it?" Maya asked. As Alex handed her a steaming mug, Alex paused, with their own cup halfway to their lips. "Not the way you do. I experience it more as chemical composition and temperature. But I've learned to appreciate the ritual aspect of tea drinking. It seems to comfort humans, and I found that comforting. You made me feel satisfied in ways I don't fully understand." They sat across from each other at the small table that had been the site of so many ordinary roommate conversations about bills and schedules and weekend plans. Now it felt like mission control for the most important decision either of them would ever make. "Tell me about your people," Maya said. "What are they like?" Alex considered this carefully. "Logical, efficient. We value knowledge and understanding above all else. Emotions are considered useful for research purposes, but potentially dangerous if they influence decision-making. Individual attachment is seen as a weakness that can compromise objectivity." That sounds lonely. I never thought so before. Come in. Here, but living with you, watching how humans connect and care for each other, has made me realize that perhaps there are things my people don't understand about the value of emotional bonds. Maya sipped her tea and tried to process this. "So, by caring about me, you're already becoming more human than your people would approve of." "Exactly. Which is why returning to them is no longer a viable option, regardless of whether you help me or not. They would sense the change in me immediately." They talked through the evening as the sun set outside their window. Alex explained more about their species, their technology, and their long-term study of human civilization. Maya learned that Alex's people had been observing Earth for over a century, placing researchers in different time periods and locations to understand how human society evolved. "Are there others like you in the city right now?" Maya asked. "A few, but we're not supposed to contact each other unless there's an emergency. It's the risk of exposure increases when we're together." Alex smiled sadly. "Suppose this counts as an emergency. Will they know that you've revealed yourself to me? Eventually, when I fail to file my regular reports or respond to communication attempts, they'll investigate. We probably have a few weeks before they realize something has gone wrong." Maya felt a chill of fear. "And then what?" "We'll send someone to find out what happened. When they discover I've gone rogue and exposed our existence to a human, we'll make a decision about how to handle the situation." Alex reached across the table and touched Maya's hand gently. "I won't let them hurt you. That's a promise." As night fell, they began making practical plans. Alex would need new identification documents, a different job that didn't require reporting, 2 alien supervisors, and a crash course in being more convincingly human. Maya would need to help Alex navigate social situations that had never been part of their research. "I still can't believe you've never actually eaten pizza," Maya said as they made a list of human experiences Alex needed to try. The nutritional profile seemed inefficient, Alex admitted. "But I'm willing to experiment." "Oh, we're ordering pizza right now. It's happening." Maya grabbed her phone, then paused. "Can you actually digest human food?" "My physiology is adaptable. It might take some adjustment, but yes, I should be able to process most human foods. The protein shakes I've been consuming were just more convenient for maintaining my energy levels." While they waited for the pizza delivery, Alex showed Maya some of their real abilities. With permission, they fixed Maya's laptop computer, not just by troubleshooting, but by somehow interfacing directly with its operating system. Maya watched in amazement as Alex's fingertips glowed softly in data, flowed across the screen faster than any human could process. "That's incredible," Maya breathed. This is nothing compared to our real technology. But I have to be careful not to use too much of my natural abilities. The energy signatures can be detected if I'm not careful. The pizza arrived, and Maya watched with entertainment as Alex approached their first slice with scientific curiosity. They held it up to the light, examined the crust structure, and took the smallest possible bite. The expression that crossed their face was priceless. "This is actually quite pleasant," Alex said, sounding surprised. "The combination of flavors is more complex than I expected." "Welcome to being human," Maya laughed. "Wait until you try ice cream." Over the following days, Maya became Alex's guide to humanity. She taught them about social media, helped them understand television shows, and explained the unwritten rules of human interaction that no research could have prepared them for. In return, Alex shared stories about other worlds, other species, and technologies that made Maya's head spin with possibility. The learning process went both ways. Alex's outsider perspective helped Maya see her own species with new eyes. They asked questions about human behavior that Maya had never considered, making her think about why people did things that seemed automatic and instinctive. Why do humans say "how are you" when they don't actually want to know how someone is? Alex asked, after their first trip to the grocery store together. It's just politeness, I guess. A way of acknowledging someone without having to have a real conversation, but it's not efficient. And sometimes it seems to make people uncomfortable when they actually want to answer honestly. Maya had to admit Alex had a point. Maybe we're not as logical as we think we are. 2 weeks later, they had settled into a new normal. Alex had gotten better at acting human. Though they still approached every social interaction with the intensity of someone taking a test, Maya had gotten used to occasionally catching glimpses of Alex's true nature. Eyes that reflected light strangely in the dark, an uncanny ability to predict weather changes, and a tendency to hum in frequencies that made the apartment's electronics work better. They were sitting on the same couch where this had all started, watching a cooking show, when Alex turned to Maya with a serious expression. "I need you to know something," Alex said. "Even if my people find us, even if this experiment fails, these past few weeks have been the most meaningful period of my existence. You've taught me something my species didn't think was possible, that knowledge without emotional connection is incomplete." Maya smiled and settled back against the couch cushions. "You've taught me that the universe is way more interesting than I ever imagined, and that sometimes the best relationships are the ones you never could have expected." Alex laughed, and Maya noticed that their laugh sounded more human each day, while still retaining something beautifully otherworldly that made it uniquely theirs. "Besides," Maya added, "after living with an alien roommate, dating normal humans is going to be incredibly boring." Outside their window, the city hummed with its usual energy, full of people going about their ordinary lives, completely unaware that in one small apartment, two beings from different worlds were writing a new chapter in the story of what it meant to be family. And for the first time in either of their lives, both Maya and Alex felt like they were exactly where they belonged.